think we're rolling now. Gosh, this is so heavy. Oh my god, you guys. I went crazy and I bought so many books. This is actually really heavy. And hang on, let me put this down. So we are officially in 2024, and over the last month I have just accumulated a lot of Amazon purchases. I've gone to a local bookstore that I absolutely adore, and then I've just gotten some books that were gifts from people over Christmas. And today's video is basically an accumulation of all the various new books and book hauls that I've experienced over the last month. And I'm really excited to kind of share with you guys some of the amazing books that I have gotten through these various gifts and hauls over the last month. It's so cool to see how different all of these are gonna be. So let's get into it. The first book I have is The Guest List by Lucy Foley. I actually purchased this at our local bookstore that I absolutely adore. I've already read another book by Lucy Foley, which was The Paris Apartment. I read that during my thriller week in October. Definitely go check out that video if you haven't yet. And I really liked her writing style. A lot of her books have multiple POVs, and that's kind of what's to be expected in this book. This is about a wedding that takes place in Ireland, I believe, and there's just a bunch of people that go and someone ends up getting murdered and everyone's a suspect. Nobody really knows exactly who did it because everyone is so suspicious. So I think this is going to be kind of similar to The Paris Apartment. It might be another book that is a whodunit. So I'm really curious to kind of read this, and it is a very short thriller. I want to say it's a little over 300 pages long, goodness. So this could be a very easy day read, weekend read if it's raining or snowing, which we happen to get here in Ohio in January. So I think this will be a really cool thriller. It'll be something different, and I do like Lucy Foley. So I'm very excited to add this to the book haul for this month. The next book I also got from our local bookstore, which is called The Villa by Rachel Hawkins. The Villa is trending a lot on Goodreads right now. I have not seen too many reviews on YouTube for this book yet. And this is also another thriller. I've not read anything by Rachel Hawkins. Comment down below if you have read this book or anything by this author. I'm really intrigued to see if this is going to be another really great thriller writer that I'm going to absolutely fall in love with. And in this book, we are following a group of friends who end up going on this vacation to this villa in Italy. And this villa is notorious for being this place where a rock star ended up getting murdered years and years ago. And we can all assume what that means for this book. It's a thriller after all. Of course it's going to get messy. Of course it's going to be dramatic. There might be some spooky stuff. Who knows? But it's to be expected, and I'm all about it. I'm here for it. So I'm really curious to see if this lives up to the Goodreads reviews that I've seen for this being just so highly rated. And it is a newer release, so this could be a really fun one to get through and just kind of break up some of the other books that I plan to read this year. I have a lot of fantasy that I want to get through, and just some more sombering kind of historical fiction to kind of just break things up. Having a good thriller is a great option. The next book I have is a completely different direction, and this is Tracks by Robin Davidson, and holy cow, this book sounds fantastic. This is a true story, true account. Robin has written this herself about her own accounts. She's from Australia, and she decides to go all the way across the continent and travel 1,700 miles with nothing but a couple of camels and her dog for company, and that's it. And that just sounds fantastic. I want to know what happens to her. There's actually a movie that has come out from this book, and this was written in the 90s, so it is a little bit older, but that's not to say that it's not going to be a great read. And I've read so many non-fiction, true adventure stories in 2021 and 2022. I took a little bit of a break from that in 2023, and I really hit my fiction stride in the last year and really gravitated towards more fantasy, some more series, that kind of a thing, and I really neglected a lot of the great nonfiction true adventure stories. So I'm really interested to see what happens to her, and then also watch the movie and compare it to the book and see how similar that they could possibly be, or maybe they're not similar at all. Who knows? So if you've read this book, definitely let me know your thoughts. This has been around around for quite some time, so it's definitely possible that maybe somebody in your life has already read this and they really enjoyed it. But don't discount adventure novels. They are probably some of the most inspiring books I've ever read, and I can't wait to read through this one. And it's not very long, you guys. It's only like 270 pages. So this could also be another really good day read and a really good palate cleanser to kind of break up some of those more heavy reads that I have on my TBR. The next book is going to be one of those heavy reads. I just know it. And that is The Four Winds by Kristen Hanna. I have read The Great Alone by Kristen Hanna and The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna, both of which were fantastic. The characters, you just end up caring for them like so much. Her character development and her writing is above and beyond anything that I've ever read before, and I sobbed like a baby in both of those books. This was actually a gift to me as a Christmas present, and I'm really thankful that I ended up getting this as a gift because I didn't even think about picking this one up, honestly, even though I love Kristen Hanna as an author. But this book is a little bit newer. It was published in 2021, and it's kind of lessened in popularity over time, but it's still a new release, and it's still very well liked by a lot of other people who really enjoy Kristen Hanna. In this book, we are following a family that lives in Texas in the 1920s during the Dust Bowl. And we basically follow this family and all the struggles that they have to endure with their farm and what that entails for them just being able to survive. And, you know, the Dust Bowl butts up right next to the Great Depression, which was like a very sad time in American history. This book will probably make me cry, and it will probably get me thinking a lot about just a very tough time in American history. And that's okay. You know, sometimes we need to read books like this to be able to appreciate what we have today and just understand like all the struggles that we've gone through like as a country, and know that this could have happened. Even though this is historical fiction, this very well could have happened to a family living during that time in the United States. So I'm really excited to read through this, and I have high expectations. I know the writing's going to be amazing. So I'm really thankful that this was gifted to me. What a great gift. The next book I ended up picking up at our local bookstore, which is Hail Mary by Andy Weir. This is science fiction, you guys. I have never read science fiction before. I know. Shocking, right? Which is crazy because all of the movies that I tend to gravitate towards as like being my favorites end up being like science fiction types of movies. Like I love Star Wars, I love Star Trek, and I love Alien. Like all of those are very like space-esque, and for whatever reason I've never picked up a science fiction. I don't know why. Maybe it's because science fiction is like one of those genre types where you end up reading a lot of fiction and then over time you're like, I need to break it up and pick something new. So it's like an avenue from fiction into a different like subgenre of fiction, if you will. It's not typically a genre you see a lot of people be like, yeah, I just love science fiction. That's my go-to genre. It's not usually what the mainstream people will end up doing. But I'm really excited to read this book. This is about an astronaut, and he is basically on a mission to save Earth and prevent it from being destroyed. It's like their very last like Hail Mary to make sure that the Earth doesn't like implode and get destroyed. And it looks like he also has like a crew that has to solve different types of mysteries and puzzles along the way to kind of make sure that the Earth stays alive and doesn't go extinct. This has really high ratings on Goodreads. This also has a lot of good reviews on BookTube. So I have very high expectations going into this. Even though I've never read anything that is science fiction before, I do think I'm going to like this, and maybe it'll just open up my mind to reading more science fiction going forward. The next book we have is Before We Were Yours by Lisa Wingate. This is another historical fiction, and this was a gift to me over the Christmas holidays. And this one is also going to be a little bit sad, I can tell just from the summary of the overall book. It is about these two kids during the 1930s living in the United States, and their mother ends up like going to the hospital and they try to save her. So they run away down the Mississippi River to go and find help, but they end up getting stuck in an orphanage. And it's so sad because we kind of hear two different timelines. We hear from this like 1930s timeline where these kids end up staying at the orphanage. We're also following another timeline of present day of like what happened to these siblings once, you know, they come into the normal day and age. So I think this is going to be a real tearjerker. This is another historical fiction. It's from a time period that I have not read a whole lot about before, but I think this is going to be really good. It's going to challenge me to just think about, a time in America's history that was really sad, but it's still very important to remember and know that things like this could have happened to people. And this isn't a very long book. I think it's a little over 330 pages, and it's really floppy. I love a good floppy back. This is very high ratings as well. It's really popular, so for that reason, I think it's going to be a really good read, and I'm really interested to kind of see what happens and what my overall thoughts are on this book. The next book we have, we're kind of going on a trend now for the next couple ones. The next one is also another historical fiction, which is Hamnet by Maggie O'Farrell. Now, this book has been out for a little bit of time, but it has won so many awards. You guys, just listen to this. It was the winner of the Women's Prize for Fiction. It was a finalist for the National Book Critics Circle Award, and it was longlisted for the Walter Scott Prize for Historical Fiction. Historical fiction traditionally has been that genre that has captivated me into reading again. It is my favorite genre. I am starting to read less and less of it just so I can expand my mind into some different genres that I haven't tried before. But I will still go towards historical fiction as my tried and true favorite genre. And this book is so different. It's so intriguing. It takes place in the 1500s during the Black Plague in London, and it's kind of like a retelling of Shakespeare's Hamlet. So this is going to be very dramatic. We're going to follow issues between family members, and then we also have this plague aspect, which is going to have a lot of death and just sadness. And I'm really curious to see how this is going to be. Obviously it is way up there in terms of awards and being likable, but there's not very many people that have reviewed this or read it lately, which is really surprising to me, because if it was so amazing and so good, I feel I would hear more reviews on BookTube or see more people on Goodreads just reading through this. But nonetheless, I'm still really curious to give this a shot and read through it. It is historical fiction, my beloved genre. So I'm really excited to read it and kind of give you guys my thoughts. Definitely comment down below if you have read this. Let me know if you really enjoyed it and if it lived up to the hype. The next book is also a historical fiction, and we all know it's coming. All the Light We Cannot See by Anthony Doerr. This book has gone wild over the last year. It is now a Netflix series, which is awesome. I need to watch it, but I really want to read the book first. And in this book, we're following two different people, and it takes place in Paris during World War II. There is a girl who works with her father at this museum and basically helps take care of him. And so the daughter kind of has to do a lot for this museum, and then obviously the Nazis take over during World War II, and then there's this boy that kind of gets entangled with the family. I think he's from the Nazi side, and there's a little bit of tension and love interest between the two of them. Yeah, so this is going to be probably another sad read. Obviously, the time period of World War II is a great time period for a lot of historical fiction novels, and it's just a time in history that is just very dark and very sad. But I think this is going to be really amazing. It won the Pulitzer Prize. Obviously, it is won that for a reason. So I want to see if this lives up to the hype. We'll see. I don't know if I'm going to read this right away, but I love the fact that it takes place in Paris and it is a World War II story. So I'm going to give it a read, and then I'm going to go watch the series and see if it's the same or different, or if I even like the story at all. So very excited to read through this book. The last book is going to be so exciting, you guys. The last book is Paris is Always a Good Idea by Jen McKinley. And this is a really heartwarming romance, you guys. This cover, can we just take a moment to appreciate this cover? I love the little icons that she has going on here. We have the Eiffel Tower, we have a little guy on his bicycle. And this story, we are following a main character, and she ends up studying abroad in Europe during her college years, but then moves back to the States. While she's stateside, she goes through this period in her life where things are just not going her way anymore, and she just really longs to go back to that time when she was living in Europe and kind of living her golden days, if you will. So she goes back to Europe and tries to find these 3 different men that she had previous flames with, with the hopes that she will like reconnect with one of them and hopefully like form the great romance of her life. So one guy is from Ireland, one is from Italy, and one is from France. So we're just kind of following her as she goes back to Europe to try and find these guys and hopefully like fall back in love again. And I love any book that takes place in Paris. I would love to go to Paris one day. That just sounds like so amazing. So I just think this is going to be like a nice little cozy read. Maybe this will be a good one to read around like Valentine's Day. And I'm obsessed with the cover. I love the colors of the blue, and then the back is pink, you guys. Like, how cute is that? Oh my gosh, can't wait. So that is all the books from this book haul, various book hauls, I will say, and it's kind of a lot. I ended up doing, I think there's 8 books here. Let's see. Whoop. So you guys, those are all the books from our various book hauls over the last month. Let's see, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 books. That's a lot, and these are all very heavy. But I'm so excited to basically get into these and add them to my shelf and my TBR. Comment, like, and subscribe if you haven't done so already, and let me know if you've read any of these books or have any recommendations for future book hauls and TBRs. So thank you guys so much for tuning in and watching today's video. I love you all so much, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!